Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Business and Banking Dialogue Show. Welcome to the new timing of BBD. I hope the new timing of 6 p.m. Is convenient to everyone, those who go to the office, who started going to the office, and others. I'm KK, your moderator for this show. As usual, we are live in EPS, social media channels, namely YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So today, our topic of discussion is on the IBC code. The bankruptcy one-stop solution resolving insolvencies, which previously process offer. The code interest of small investors and makes the process less cumbersome. So today we will review that code that came into being, which has been so effective. Has it lived up to its expectations? Has it been able to tackle the financial stress, which is the most importance in today's world? To discuss this topic, we have with us Mr. V.G. Kannan. He has come to our show earlier. So let's see his profile. Right now in front of you, you will see the profile of Mr. V.G. Kannan. Very popular person. He has been the CEO of the Indian Banks Association, and which is a representative body of the Indian banks. Prior to becoming the CEO of IBA, Mr. Kannan was the Managing Director of State Bank of India, and in various level positions. He held a board level position in the bank, supervising the business of SBI's 5 associate banks and 9 Indian subsidiaries. He was also the MD and CEO of SBI Capital Markets, one of the large asset management companies of India. He has held a number of important positions in his professional career with SBI and his extensive experience in the loan assets of the bank. Some of his other credentials are right in front of you. So let's please join me in welcoming Mr. V.G. Kannan. Mr. Kannan, good evening and a warm welcome to the Business and Banking Dialogue.
Thank you, KK.
Thank you. So how are you doing? All well?
So far, so good under the circumstances.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah, that's what we all have to say, right? Good as can be good in these circumstances. So in March 2020, the government had announced to suspend insolvency proceedings under IBC for a period of 6 months. What is your view on this move by the government? What are the implications of this temporary suspensions of the banking sector? If you could tell our participants very briefly, what's the bankruptcy code all about, although I did put it in 2 words, and then come to the point of why it was suspended. What is the beyond the suspension?
Right. Thank you, KK. And thank you for having me over again. And it's been a wonderful journey with you all. I've been listening and participating with many of the earlier sessions. IBC, as you know, was enacted in 2016. And this was as a fallout of the hesitancy on the part of the banks, having got used to delays. And normally they used to do restructuring of the accounts. And it was a continuous process of restructuring and refinancing. And the stress in the system was quite a bit. So much so that the recoveries was not there. The provisioning was going up. Companies were in deep stress, high leverage, other issues in the market, government and directives, and so on and so forth. In the past, we have had various legislations also, including the SURFACE, etc. Some of them were very successful. But by and large, whenever the legal process was sought, the delays were considerable. Second thing is the then dispensation was that you normally continue with the existing promoter because changing the promoter, which was envisaged under the various schemes of the Reserve Bank of India, also did not yield results. We had the SDR, the S4As, all those things were well-intentioned, and I think were at the request of the bankers, also some of the borrowers. But except a couple of cases, I think not many of them saw actually much of a result. So with the result, when the IBC came into being, it appeared to give a fresh look into the entire scheme of addressing the stress assets. It said that there could be a restructuring program, and restructuring program could be with the existing promoters also. However, in the event there was some sort of a buyout or some sort of a OTS or something, then the IBC had certain issues where they felt that the existing promoter may use this as a way out of reducing the debt, etc., and then continuing with the same methodology they used and having control of the company, which they could not run properly. Various reasons. It could be equity, it could be debt, it could be markets, everything. So the feeling was that we should have a fresh outsider who could take charge of the company and look at the assets, look at the debt, look at the profile, and then handle it. And this is where the IBC, which did not have these provisions, was amended from time to time. And I think the kudos to the government and the ministries for having taken cognizance of this. And then they did introduce the various amendments, which ensured that the existing promoters cannot take advantage of any. IBC as a process has been, is it a success? Yes. Has it met its entire, what you call, expectations? Not necessarily. But I think overall, the way forward, I think the entire scheme, be it the lawyers, be it the companies, be it the promoters, be it even new investors, appear to feel that IBC is a much better process. There's a lot of a feeling that the original timelines are not being met, and which was also partly because of the existing process where you normally operate 25 days in a week, and then you have the number of holidays, and then you have the festival season, etc. So I think that being the case, the expectation that 180 days or 270 days would have been ideal, and people were euphoric that you're going to have a complete revamp, and as expectedly, it did not come up to that. I think that also was seen by the government and the authorities. That's extended. But by and large, I would say, in a few large cases, the very fact that we could get a change of promoter, and also the a resolution where you have a new promoter coming in full control, the existing promoter not being in a position to sort of stall the process, as was the case in the earlier thing. The IBC itself went through a number of delays, mainly because at every stage there was effort to find out whether there's a typical legal hurdle which could create problems for the process to go through. I think it's a learning process, and well learned. A lot of new jurisprudence, a lot of changes were there. By and large, I would say IBC as a process has come to stay. And overall, I think it is a good success. And I also mentioned that, IBC as a process, whether it has been a fantastic success, I won't say yes. But at the same time, it is a real situation where going forward, I think this could be a major solution, and also to ensure that the promoters do not try to misuse the funds or stall the proceedings. Coming back to this question regarding this pandemic thing, it is quite logical when the entire system is shut, and especially those companies which may have been partially stressed, and which could have probably come out or may remain at the same level of stress with a little bit of continuation of the process, could have either come out of it or could manage. But then if they had simply taken to the IBC process, then the entire economy would have collapsed. Not that it is not in a bad shape now, but the economy would have collapsed because almost every industry in the some of the things like the hospitality sector, the aviation sector, some of the other sectors, we would all would have been impacted because 6 months is quite a long time. And if the demands have come down substantially, obviously the cash flows are going to be affected, the repayments are going to be affected. And I think it is essential that some relief be permitted, that those people who have who may have otherwise have gone to NCLT or to the IBC be given some relief, because this is something which was beyond the control of them. It was certainly not that doing at all. And I think some relief has been given. So even the Reserve Bank of India and the government having realized the situation, have given the relief. And I think that relief is sort of extended in the case of IBC. It's not that they have been given a permanent relief that anyone who has defaulted during this period will be completely absolved. What they said is, in case otherwise it has to be taken to IBC, the same will be held up for a period of 6 months. I think the process will start now, and people will be given. But in the meantime, we do have the Reserve Bank of India having looked at certain cases where it is in the incipient sicknesses, initial sicknesses, where restructuring could be done. And that could be a little bit of elbow room to the promoters and the bankers to get their act together and see what they can to continue with the process of restructuring the accounts and ensure the system is in place. I think I'm all for it. Yes, there have been people who are saying that the value of the securities could get eroded during this time frame, but I think we need to give it that the process itself would have otherwise also been stalled because of the frequency of the NCLT hearings also would have been impacted, because there would have been a deluge of cases, and which could have further stalled the situation. I think it is a right step to give this temporary relief. Let's see how it progresses further.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Kannan. Yeah, I from hearing from you, Mr. Kannan, I feel yes, perhaps these are stressed out times, and you need special measures to come out of these, kind of give relief to the already stressed sector. But I think one of the best features, if I was to tell you, is that it's about the line and about 90 days about in meetings and many things, and it just drags on. This provision that you have to either settle the case within 180 days or just go liquidate or just go bust, go liquidate yourself. 180 days or that's it, go away. Is that part of is that a very aggressive step, or you think that's a good one?
KK, in fact, personally speaking, initially also we felt 180 days was a bit too aggressive. But then the IBC felt that if you don't give a timelines in the system, then there's a tendency for legal cases. Legal cases go even generations before it's settled. I've seen,
yes,
I know the 1992 that case got settled sometime in 2016, which is almost about 24 years. And I think no economy can expect that kind of delays. And any number of other legal cases which goes on and on. And not only that, I think if you continue to have that kind of process, neither the financial institution nor the promoter can have a clear-cut picture as to what is happening. And it will be just like the entire thing being postponed for ever and ever. So 180 days was initially felt very aggressive, but I think it was indicative of the desire of the authorities and also of the expectation of the market, saying that we need to have finite time before we take a decision on this. You can't indefinitely go on saying that we are discussing, we are doing restructuring, and we are discussing this, and people are saying I'll go on settlement. And I won't say it's a Damocles sword, but it is essentially a very clear-cut indication that we need to have a finite time before the resolution is there. Having said this, I think due to what I mentioned about the various stalling process which was there in the initial stages of the IBC, I think many of the cases went even beyond 1.5 years and 2 years. But that is expected because this is all, it is a new law. It's something which we all were eagerly looking forward to. It was not such a clear-cut saying that on 81st day it becomes insolvent and then go through. But I think the process has evolved very well. People are quite happy with it in general. May not be the ideal one, but I think over a period with so much of decisions, like I mentioned, I think the process has been streamlined, and now they are extended about 330 days. But even that may be too aggressive, but it is far, far better than the 5 years and 10 years which it took for anything. And in 15 years' time, the value of the security goes down, or the NPV, the actual loss to the organization is much more than having settled something within a year or so. I think it's a welcome step. Let's see how it progresses. But overall, I am quite sanguine that these are all things which are good steps taken by the government and appreciated by the authorities, appreciated by the banks. The NCLT and MCLT, they have been ramped up. More courts have been set up. All augurs well for a good system.
Excellent, sir. Thank you. It's what you say. It augurs well for the system. That's good to hear, sir. So, you have any couple of use cases that you can share with the audience as to which has been very positive in nature?
See, actually, this one case, it's a very large steel company, and which is sort of a showcase for the entire market, and almost the entire country, the banking system, the corporates, the government, everyone was glued to that particular case, and it was going back and forth, starting right from the stage of application of the for acceptance in the IBC and so on. And at every stage, the delays were there. In fact, the application itself took almost about 2 months or something, because they had to ensure this is amongst the first cases. Having said that, one thing I would like to mention before I continue with this, the bankers generally were reluctant to take the cases to IBC. It was very clear, and I would say that till almost, I think, if I'm not mistaken, June or July 2017, there's a total hesitancy on the part of the bankers to take any large case to IBC, because they felt that it could be the same scenario like what happened in the case of the earlier DRT cases or the SURFACE, where it would be long prolonged. But I would say the nudge and the push came from the Reserve Bank of India's directive under the special powers given to them to force certain identified companies to go to NCLT. So that is the beginning of the process. I think it started sometime, I think, July 17, as I recall. And I think the process starts, but by the time the actual application came, it was almost by the end of 17. And there was a lot of frustration amongst the bankers saying, usual 180 days, we are already about 100 days, 125 days. And then you had the various processes saying that the existing promoter was using a backdoor route to enter the company. And then you had the other bidders also having certain issues with some defaulting accounts. So all those things were all a learning process. But again, what happened is, in case you start saying, no, he can't do, he can't bid, then at the end of the day, you'll find that you're going back to the same thing. So a via media was found, and then, okay, people can then, in case they have a clean slate, or in case they have had default, they should clear up the defaults. Similarly, anyone who's already had a default cannot come through a back door and enter the business. They should not be, some other bidder cannot be fronting the existing promoters. So these are all the processes which happen. And then when that got cleared, then again at every stage, it had to go to the NCLT, then NCLAT. In a few cases, it went right up to the Supreme Court. So it was a back and forth game, a lot of frustration, if I'm not mistaken. So 20, 25 times the period was extended. And I think the cases went on for long. Subsequently, also, we found that particular case, there was an issue regarding the secured creditors and unsecured creditors. You had a large number of unsecured creditors who said that, no, we are secured creditors. The original scheme of things said secured creditors would be on a higher pedestal. Financial creditors, among them, will be on a higher pedestal. Operational creditors will be on a different pedestal. And they will be given something, but obviously secured creditors who have given funds on the basis of the security available. So this was a dilemma, and when the rulings came saying that secured creditors or unsecured creditors will be treated equal, then the entire thing goes back to the financing of the companies. Bankers, in majority, normally finance only against security. Security in the sense of security of either the stocks, security of the land, security of the machinery. And obviously, because there's a security, they always also operate at a very competitive rate. And the unsecured creditors are normally, and they get the repayments almost regularly. They get every month, they get every 15 days, depending on what they supply. And they cannot put on the same pedestal, though they are also very essential. But I think they cannot be put on the same pedestal as the secured creditors, who finance long periods of asset acquisition, as also land, as also processes. And I think that was something which the entire the banking fraternity felt a bit upset when the ruling came, saying that they are all equal. But then I think subsequently this was taken up through the IBC amendment, saying that this has to be settled, and secured creditors would be given a preferential treatment, and that was finally accepted. There again, the distribution among this, whether it should be equal distribution, it will be graded distribution. So many processes are there. Finally, almost more than 2 years it took. But that is like a sort of a benchmark case, iconic for the country to refer to for many instances. There's so many other iconic cases and similar. But this particular case of a large corporate, which actually the bankers got almost 75-80% of the recoveries, was I would say, a very good decision. But very patient they were there. Many of them had almost provided to the extent of 85-90%, and therefore they got a good capital inflow by the way of the recoveries. And you have got a new bidder who came in afresh and then took over. And similarly, there are other cases also. But this was one particular case which I think in the annals of the history of IBC will be quoted time and again for the various steps which happened, and to prove the success of IBC. I think I was not a party to it in a sense because I had already retired from the bank. But since I was in the IBA, I was closely involved with the following the process. I think this was a landmark case. And going forward, we find that more and more such cases are coming up. And I think overall, I would say this showcases how the IBC process, which would have normally taken about 10-15 years and nothing would have come out of it, got resolved within 2 years.
Yeah.
It is a very good case. But having said this, I think there are a few other cases where because of the lack of securities or because of the lack of understanding, because of some issues regarding personal guarantees, they have all been delayed. And I'm sure the entire system will find a way out as to how to tackle interpretation issues. And I think we'll see the light of the day where it will be easier for the promoters, the corporate lender borrowers and the corporate lenders to know what kind of time frame then they will be in a position to get some resolution, either changing the promoter or even resolution. But I have to give a word of caution, and I would say benefit the Reserve Bank of India as circulars, which has actually given some respite to the existing borrowers, saying that within a month, in case you have stress, if you can put in place a proper resolution plan outside the IBC, which is acceptable with certain parameters, I think it gives one more lease of life. But they have, of course, given some conditions, and that will ensure that they are not pushed into NCLT in the first instance. But at the same time, they cannot go on procrastinating, both the borrowers and the bankers, because there are certain strict provisioning norms which acts as an incentive and a disincentive for either the resolution process or for taking it to NCLT.
Thank you, Mr. Kannan. Well said. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have dived deep into IBC and whether it's good, it's bad, and whether it is meeting its expectations, etc. So I open up the Q&A box for any questions you may have. I'm sure there's lots of questions coming up because today we see a lot of bankers in the audience, and we are so overwhelmed that the banking industry's who's who are in this online show today, Mr. Kannan. It has luminaries like Mr. Padmanabhan, Ms. Lata, Sudhakar Kazza, Mr. Mohan Pansale, and many others. This is what we cherish at the BBD Dialogue, the meaningful dialogue for a better tomorrow. So, thank you very much for coming and being present here. Good to have you, sir. Good to have all of you. And we'll be happy to receive questions from audience. I have a question straight away for you, Mr. Kannan. Mr. Pushpendra Khandelwal, who has been a very regular participant in this show and asked very good questions, sir. He says to you, Mr. Kannan, good evening, sir. IBC 2016 was enacted to reduce the time in legal proceedings and liquidation of assets very fast. No doubt in it. But in the above context, my query is one, due to lower threshold for IBC process set in the default of rupees 1 lakh, attracting greater number of cases, should it be reviewed? That means there was a review that nothing, default of 1 lakh is what was the thing. Should we review that? Haircut is ranging from 58% to 80%, which is again pressurizing for the capital. So is it helping the banks? And his third question is further require improvements in IBC, in your opinion? So you can start with the first. I can prompt you with the next. So first, the threshold limit, sir. Yeah, Mr. Kannan.
I think the threshold limit of 1 lakh was seen because many of the operational creditors who were late, they could actually take it to NCLT. In fact, many of the smaller accounts also, I am told by many of the bankers saying that due to the threat of taking the cases to NCLT or IBC, many of the borrowers actually came forward, did a OTS or did a restructuring, or even actually paid up the default. And the recovery actually got improved in many cases. Of course, many large cases also got delayed. But it was an encouraging sign that, some sort of a stick was there, that, you can lose your company, you can lose what all you have saved, etc., in case you don't fall in line. And that is something which ensures some sort of a discipline. And therefore, this was there. But if I'm not mistaken, I've been out of touch for almost 6-7 months. I think the threshold limit has been increased, especially in the case of the individual housing people, because otherwise you would have found that in a group of 300 household flat owners, 2 persons used to file. So I think it has been increased. So I'm not too sure. 1 lakh, yes, appears to be too low, but you have to understand that the smaller companies with a total say outlay of only 5 crores and 6 crores, 1 lakh could be a big amount for many of the operational creditors. The bankers, of course, will not be the ones who will be giving 1 lakh as a loan for a project of 5 crores or 3 crores or 10 crores. But I think it is more to protect the interests of the operating creditors. this can be reviewed from time to time. Just as we have been revising the income tax ceilings. I think this also will be reviewed from time to time. I'm with you that that is the case, but what could be the number? It has to be seen. But even otherwise, the number of cases are large, and 1 lakh appears to be slightly on the lower side, could be increased. At the same time, if you increase it too much, you will find that many of the individual operational creditors might get affected, and that could sort of vitiate the entire process. So we need to strike a balance and see what can be done. What is the second part of it, you said?
The second question is, second part of the question is that the haircut is ranging from 58 to 80%, which is again pressurizing the capital. So is it helpful to the banks? Is it helping the banks?
Yeah, okay, I do agree with you. The haircut seems to be pretty high. But if you look at the fair value of the assets, you need to say what would have been the alternative. The alternative was either go to the liquidation process, and this is the process. I know because I am a part of a company. I went and attended the company only once, and that was the last meeting. It is almost 9 years now. The winding up is still going on. I know if that kind of a thing happens, of course, it didn't have too many assets, but the liquidation process is quite painful. And for all you know, it may be much lower than this. In most cases, the valuation you'll get from a liquidation process is going to be much lower, which is what is the alternative. But a running concern, if it is taken, even if you get a 60%, 70% haircut, would be much better than the liquidation process, which is the alternative, with the added pains on this. Yes, that could be, but valuation it's not obvious that the original value of the particular project was lower, either by way of the cash flows, either by way of the security available, or the machinery, or the viability. No, you have companies which have got virtually nothing except labor and say EPC contractors. How do you expect any valuation from them? Because the contracts have been cancelled, and the projects are delay have been there for payment, and that there is incompletion of the projects. I think you need to appreciate that there is a problem in the way the projects have been handled, both from the bankers as also by the borrowers. I think we need to appreciate that the valuation reflects what is the market feeling. Otherwise, that this should be the value, and it may have been overvalued or overpriced in terms of the loans additionally being given in the past. But today, I think people are going to be more careful, and the haircuts was expected. And to be very frank, many of the bankers are quite happy because otherwise they would have had to continue with the assets, pumping in more and more debt. And it was better for them to clean up the books, take away the haircut, give away the haircut, and realize what is possible and start on a cleaner slate. So having a sick patient permanently, it's better that you treat them fully either way. I'm giving a wrong analogy, but I think it's no point keeping on pumping in again and again, the fond hope that in 10 years' time it will revive. And in which case, there's too much of funds going into the particular company, which may not be really worthwhile. And the ultimate scenario, the haircut would have actually been much, much higher than what would have been had you taken the haircut the earliest. So one of the issues which the bankers faced was the apprehension of large haircuts initially. But ultimately, in most cases, except a few cases like say the one which happened in Calcutta or the one which happened in the other one, in most cases, the delay actually cost them a higher haircut in addition to additional funding. So I think it has to be a via media where people have to take quick decisions. Money in hand today is better than money coming 3 years and 5 years with a probability of 40%, 50%. So that has to be seen.
Thank you. Thank you. The third question, we will take it a little later. Hang on to that because he's asking for reforms. This question, I think that will come down in our in the many of the discussion that we will have. So one of the things that so let me take another question. It's coming to you all the way from Mr. Padmanabhan G. I think it's too early to pass a judgment about quantum of haircut based on processed cases, which first set of hardcore ones. We need to get more data and for the process to settle down further. Your thoughts, Mr. Kannan?
I think I have more. I
Yeah.
fully endorse what Kannan said. I think
Yes.
it's very difficult to say, look at one stray case. In fact, in one case, in one particular case, there's no haircut at all. So you can't
Yeah.
simply look at it. You need to look at the value there, processes there, the viability of the project, etc., to see what just mainly because the banker has lent, say, a good amount doesn't mean that it's got the same value. It's an expectation of the cash flows coming in. And in many
Yes.
cases, we don't have the entire cash flow seen. However, there are a good number of companies where there's a good assets, good valuation, then you may not more than 40%, 50% haircut. Haircuts will be there. It could be 5%, it could be 90%, or it could be none also in a few cases, depending on how valuable a particular asset. And I fully with Mr. Padmanan, merely looking at a few stray cases where you have got 95% haircut does not mean, but if you actually go through that, you will probably find that there are not too many takers. And maybe the process had other the particular company had other inadequacies which was not seen and which was given a value for which the higher haircut. That were only 25% haircut, which I mentioned, the large case, and other cases
Yes.
there are hardly 1% or even less. So I think it is very easy to say that you need to have haircuts, but given any bank who takes risk, the expectation of a loss is always there. And whether the haircut is 5% or 10%, ideal situation, no haircut, which is very difficult. Once it's stress, the very fact, the word stress means there is some weakness in the system and which will be valued. And depending on the extent of stress, extent of viability, the haircut will be higher or lower. So I think we can't pass judgment merely on the basis of one case and two cases. But I would say, by and large, in many of the large cases, banks have been quite happy. And after seeing the actually analyzing and finding that certain stress was much more than what was visible to the bankers at the time when they took it to NCLT, I think overall, I think the bankers appear to be quite satisfied. They can never be fully
Yeah.
satisfied unless they get the full amount.
Correct.
It may not be really possible.
Absolutely.
It's better to get something and then carry on, carry forward, and then take care of these issues going forward.
Excellent, sir. So one of the philosophy of the IBC was the creditor in control. That was the philosophy. The creditor who was given a lot of money is under the. He was asked. He was saying he was given that the creditor is in control of this situation. Is that good to have, or is it a retrograde in nature? What does the banking fraternity feel?
In fact, if you see, the entire IBC process has completely changed the entire thinking process. Though theoretically, in the past also, the culture is supposed to be having a good say in the process, how the company runs, not on a day-to-day management, not on operational management, not on what you call looking at each and every process. But then, if there are any any events which would affect the company, the borrower is supposed to inform the bankers and take his prior approval. Uh, but the earlier process of BIFR and so many others, the entire process was that the existing borrower continues to be in control of the company and continues to take all the decisions. And in fact, even many of the schemes which were not accepted by the borrower. And so much so, I think BIFR, SICA, all of them, I would actually did not succeed. Maybe a couple of cases, but by and large, they were all misused, or I would say took a long process, and nothing much came out. So this is the first time they felt that the bankers, see, bankers as such are not normally keen to take control of any company because they are basically financiers. They are intermediaries who give them the credit, and they are looking for cash flows to come and repay it. But in the event something goes really wrong, I think the bankers had been given the powers but did not utilize it much. But under the IBC process, once the application is made to NCLT, the COC is all powerful. So whatever is being recommended by the resolution personnel, he will, it has to go to the COC and who takes the call. I think that kind of thing gives full pause to the COC to decide as to what is the best way forward, whether to restructure it, whether to sell it up piecemeal, whether you to do a full sale, part sale, everything. And it was a consultative process which ensured, and the culture was full control. The borrower, unless he had a valid resolution process ab initio, I think he loses out. It could be felt, that the borrower who's probably set up a company for 10 years and 15 years will lose out. But I think at the end of the day, the borrowers, the lenders expect that the borrower is true to the bankers and ensures that, he's in a position to service the debt, etc. And this is the first time the cultural control has actually proved a success. And all the cases where it has been decided and it's still in process, I think this is working out very well. I think it's a wonderful step. And like I was just telling, the bankers have become like Hanuman. The IBC actually said, "You are Hanuman. You are very powerful." The bankers never felt that they were powerful in the past, but as the IBC actually said, "You are very powerful," and then they rose to the occasion and they could actually deliver and take decisions very quickly. I think IBC has actually empowered the bankers to take good decisions in the benefit of the economy.
Great, sir. That's a very good analogy you brought in. So one of the big problems that we have in India is anything that comes up, if it starts over a period of time, lots of delays keep creeping in, and that kind of defeats the purpose for which it has been set. With pandemic-triggered insolvency coming up, and there should be quite a few large number of slums and bankruptcy cases in the next few months. What are your views that banks should avoid? So where do you think this is going to happen with so much of insolvency cases coming up?
So one thing is, it is something which is totally unexpected, and this is something which unforeseen. We are already started with a number of cases, starting from 2017 onwards. In fact, the AQR of 2015 triggered the avalanche of stress asset accounts in all the bankers. And from 17 onwards, many cases were referred to the IBC. Having said that, I think this was something could be considered as another disaster, but it is something, I won't say it's a man-made or non-man-made. I don't want to go into the politics of it, but this is something which affects uniformly almost all the companies. Some of them who are cash rich, they are quite okay. Some of them who were cash sufficient, they have become stressed mainly because the new cash flows are not coming. So they were otherwise either debt-free. I know I was just discussing the other day, some small restaurants, they were debt-free. They had never taken any debt, but they had sufficient cash. But 6 months was quite a long time. For whatever cash they had to give it to their suppliers, because the suppliers, you make the payment, then you had the employees. I think this is a completely different situation. It has to be handled quite differently. And different sectors are going to be impacted differently. So I think simply saying that this is yet another default, like a routine default, and treat it same like the earlier defaults may not be the right process. And rightly so, I think there has been this moratorium on the cases to be put into the IBC. Reserve Bank of India has also come out with a circular giving an opportunity to the banks to sort of help the marginally stressed companies to come out of it, and some sort of restructuring, refinancing, and additional moratorium. The jury is still out as to whether that's the right process, but I think it was essential to give some sort of a guideline to the bankers to go forward. Otherwise, it would have had the same effect of what would have happened in the case of S4A and SDR, where everyone went gung-ho and nothing came out of it. If I'm not mistaken, SDR there are hardly 2 cases, S4A also 2-3 cases. So I think we need to handle this with a kid glove. You can't apply the same kind of vigor which we had prior to the pandemic. Some sort of leeway has to be done. Yes, some others would feel that no, it should be business as usual, or what do you say, jail as usual, taking it to the court. In which case, you will have a major portion of the economy in deep stress. So I think that is not which will clog the system, which will affect the entire process and vitiate the entire thing. So we need to handle it quite differently. The steps taken by the government to some extent and by the RBI could lead the way forward. We are also expecting the KV Commerce Committee report on certain sectors, specific, what you call, timelines or even some guidelines as to how to handle these cases. I think we can't sweep and put everything under this under the same position and take it to NCLT. We will see the situation by September, October. Now, of course, you also have the Supreme Court decision regarding two months of NPA, and because one of the things is account has to be completely stressed. So we see how it will pan out. But I still feel that you cannot the same situation what it was before pandemic. And
Yes.
I think a separate treatment is warranted and is being suggested.
So in your view, what further needs to be done? And this was also the question from Mr. Khandelwal. The third question was, what further can be done to ensure faster resolution process? I'm sure it's the post-COVID only we are talking about. What else can be done to expedite the process?
Yeah, I think, by and large, the rules of the game are all quite clear. And, people also know what is the process, etc. Timelines being followed by the bankers. However, I would still say that, the one thing which is lacking, which has been augmented to some extent, is the lack of courts, lack of NCLT and NCLAT tribunals. I think it is essential that more and more such cases come up, differentiate between the small value, small ticket and the big ticket, and you can't have the same kind of person dealing with this. So we need to enhance the number of courts which could take faster decisions. Hopefully, I was just discussing with a senior official from BBB. Ideal situation, we shouldn't have any such case, because which means there's no such stress account. But I don't think so that's going to be something which will happen anytime in the near future. But we need to augment the number of cases, which will ensure that decisions are taken quickly, and people are also are in a position to arrive at the resolution faster. That is the first thing. At the same time, I think we need to have the MCA and the NCLT and NCLT on the same page, because certain cases are being interpreted quite differently, maybe rightly, maybe wrongly, we don't know. But we can't have this back and forth discussions on each and every case, which will further delay the matter. Bankers on their part should give a fair chance to the borrowers to see that they are in a position to give a resolution, which RBI has already given the time under the what you call the June 6th circular of last year, that they have sort of given some timelines, which will give time to the borrowers to come forward and do a proper restructuring with added issues to the bankers and the borrowers. But I think that has given some ray of hope to the borrowers that they can start behaving properly. If that happens quickly, then I think the need for going to NCLT will be less. But I think in the long run, maybe for 3 to 5 years, if the NCLT augmentation is done, that is something. I would actually say give full credence to the government for actually reacting quite quickly to the various issues being faced by the bankers and by the economy in handling the various cases because of the interpretations. And they have actually responded pretty fast, I would say, and made the necessary amendments, which ensured that there could be a few other cases right now. There's one case regarding the personal guarantee, as to whether and how it has to be treated under the NCLT and the IBC. So we'll wait and watch as to how it will happen. These are also envisaged. There are certain other issues which is still not clear about the group insolvency, whether a particular company should be taken as on standalone cases, or should all the other associate concerns where either they have investment or they have dependencies by way of either purchase or sale that should be taken as a single unit for the purpose of insolvency. These are all still works in process. Some wire media has been found out by bankers saying that we'll combine everything because for some reason all of them are stressed. But that could be some company which does not have any loan accounts at all. But then in which case you can't really take it to NCLT. But it is part of the entire chain process of the vertical integration of the company under stress. But without that, the entire thing will go for a toss. So those are all things which are being that has to be sorted out. It is still a lot of discussions happening with the authorities, with the various forum as to how do we take it forward.
Okay. So let's take one question, sir. There is this thing, observation more than a question from Parikshit Shah. He says that the IBC has also driven massive mergers and acquisition, M&A momentum in the country. Several matches, including having actively participated in the opportunity to acquire valuable assets at attractive prices at later higher rating, higher return. Do you think that it's a good thing to have? That's a good thing to have, that people come forward and buy out good assets.
I just, because I missed a certain word, but I just rephrase from what I heard from you. What you're saying is because of the IBC, there has been a spate of mergers of companies in the allied industries, as also maybe vertical integration or maybe inorganic growth of certain companies. I think it is essential that, good companies which has got a good track record, which has also got deep pockets, take over companies. There's no point in continuing with companies with very shallow pockets and with a very high level of stress to continue. And because it will become a drain on the economy, drain on the bankers' time, drain on the funds, and such assets, if it's taken over by some other company, could be turned around and could be beneficial. So I think it is a welcome feature. World over, it is always that these strong companies can take over the weaker ones. Having said that, we also need to ensure that we don't create monopoly structures. I think the Competition Commission will look into it, whether such monopoly structures could actually become a hurdle and could become a problem to the economy. That is something they have to look at. But purely from the financial angle, I think takeover of one company by another company, the first company which is financially strong, which has got good processes, and which has got the reach, the connect, the marketing ability, the financial strength, as I mentioned, can take over the other companies and make the entire this 1 + 1 could be even 3. So that could be because otherwise what happens, one continues, the other one becomes maybe half. So instead of become 1.5, you will probably become 3. And economies of scale could happen. So I think, it has to be seen in a different context, except for the fact that it should not create huge, what you call monopolistic structures, which could further affect me. And the people are taken for a ride in due course on pricing, etc.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. So a question again from Mr. Padmanabhan. So he says, as cases increase, do you think the availability and professionalism of the RP is going to be the biggest threat if SWOT is attempted?
Sir, I think this is a point even ab initio we were all apprehensive, because this is a new activity. This is not something which people have been used to in the past. You don't have some person with, in fact, RP is an extended form of entrepreneurship. So any person who's got some entrepreneurship and ability, a little bit of a business acumen, financial acumen, can actually come. So a good number of cases, in fact, a lot number of accountants, a number of industrialists, small companies, they all who understand the processes, who are all very keen to follow a process, can actually do it. Yes, you might think that the large cases cannot, but I think that is one of the issues which we are facing. As you know, in one particular case, NCLT has actually admonished the RP for having dependent on some firm for the various services. I think as a part of the process, it has to be seen that an RP should come with a full package of what all he can do. And we are having n number of people who are there. Professionalism is being introduced. The BBB is fully aware of this. They have also said that we will create a course of insolvency professionals, just as you have chartered accountants who will be well versed with the entire process, who will take this risk, etc. And in due course, you probably also ask the existing people also to clear those papers, so that it becomes like another profession. See, every profession which starts, we didn't have anyone looking after IT industry. Then it was the initially engineers. Then you have computer science specialists. So over a period, I think this will evolve, and we need a large number of good quality RPs, and we have a large population, sir. I think we have a lot of enthusiastic youngsters who will take it up, and I'm quite confident that we will not have that's a problem. But yes, quality could be a problem in the initial stages. But I think in the long run, you will probably have a number of cases, and quite a good cases have actually been seen, been quite successful, and that augurs well that we will have good number of RPs going forward. And with the process taken by BBB to have a separate college to also have this professional degree, I think it is a very good thing of getting good professionals in this scheme.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Padmanabhan. So, Mr. Kannan, there is a view that the COVID-19 induced stressed asset, a bad bank, we've spoken about the bad bank, would be much more effective as compared to the NCLT route as recommended as part of IBC insolvency proceedings. What are your thoughts on this?
Here, bad bank has got its positives and negatives, but at the same time, one has to see how will the bank. See, today, the bad bank as a process may be good, but who is going to fund the bad bank and what's going to be the benefits out of the bad bank? If the existing bankers are going to pass on the assets, the financial assets to the bad bank at par value, it doesn't make sense, because where will the bank actually, the bad bank fund the assets? How is it going to make payment? So that is one. Second thing is, it's not essential that the bad bank has got all the wherewithal with for handling all kind of stress and managing the company. There are some people who say the bad bank could be the best way forward. But then my main critical thing is you need to have a bad bank which has got not only funds, but also have the requisite expertise. Merely parking the account bad bank is only just putting a mask on your right and saying, no, I don't have any more NPAs. But then you're actually parking it in some other companies. The experience of in another bank has been mixed. By and large, there's been more than 10, 12 years, and that particular bank has not been in a position to resolve in many cases. And they've actually gone through the same process which of liquidation. So if the process of liquidation is to be done, might as well do it under the NCLT. I don't feel the bad bank will be the right process unless see, even today we have a semi-bad bank in the form of ARCs. They're supposed to be the one who takes the assets and supposed to do the restructuring and handle it. But we have not seen too many ARC cases where it has been successful. So I think we need to understand how it has been handled by the ARC process. Unless someone feels that no, the new bad bank and the ARC don't have funds, the bad bank may also have the same problem of funding the capital for this bad bank. Personally, I am not in favor of a bad bank. Let's see how it pans out. Not too many countries have been successful. Maybe I'm told Malaysia has been a success, but we need to understand that it has to be funded by someone and it has to be handled in a different way. If we can have that process, fine. In which case, the banks have to take a big haircut, which I'm not sure whether the banks would be very keen at this stage.
Yes. Yeah, I think this Malaysia case had come up and seemed to have, it is said that they are successful in that, and they have been able to resolve many of the bad loans. So we have passed the 7 o'clock, and when Mr. Kannan is in front of you, time flies. So we passed that hour. But if you don't mind, can I take a question? One more question, sir. So it is said that with a strict 180 plus 9. Sorry, come again, sir.
No, it's okay. But now it's 3:30. 300.
Okay, 330 days. Yeah, days to resolve, or it's like the diktat was resolve or liquidate. The court has received commendation not only from the Indian industry but from the global fraternity, including the World Bank and IMF, which has materially contributed to India's 30th place jump in the ease of doing business ranking. IBC truly enforces the concept of creditor in control instead of debtor in possession and maximize value recovery. So this has actually helped India to jump up to 30 places, as a 30th place in the ease of doing business. Do you think such reforms, this particular reform and such reforms can make India a much better position for investment?
See, one of the issues, as you rightly observed, I think, one of the issues which was faced by Indian is the elongated legal system. Like I mentioned, we have cases going on to 25 years and 27 years. In some cases where the judgment comes much after even the son of the applicant has passed away. So, you have two generations later, yes, the decision. So I think some sort of a timelines, which ideally should have been strictly adhered to, but with some sort of a leeway, has given, has put India on a different pedestal. And whenever we have compared and had discussed with the kinds of IBC process, this kind of insolvency process abroad, I think India has stood out very well. Probably they have actually taken out the best of many other cases. When I discussed with some of my friends, they said that in other countries, it is taking 4 to 5 years or even 6 years before some sort of stability has come in the process. Having said that, earlier there's a question regarding the reform. There's one particular thing which is being considered. There has been a strong move by the creditors as also the market. Pre-pack resolutions could actually be put up, where something which is agreed to between the parties, between the buyer, the seller, the lenders, could be packaged and then put it up. And that could save a lot of time of the courts. And such pre-pack proposal, especially for the medium and the small accounts, could ensure that the decisions could actually happen as less as maybe 180 days. That is something which has to be encouraged, pre-pack proposals. So that kind of thing will happen. And the ease of business, at least on the legal front, for the bankers, has been a big positive. And today, the fact that creditors in control has been an accepted fact is something which everyone accepts.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So with that, let me give a brief summary of today's discussion. The IBC is considered as one of the most effective reforms brought in with the potential of transparently and expeditiously resolving India's overwhelming NPA. The code seems to be effective and time-bound mechanism for dealing with the problem of ever-escalating NPAs and providing a banking system some much more respite because of the hopefully the IBC will go a long way with reforms like Mr. Kannan spoke about. There will be a lot more things to happen, and the IBC will truly succeed with what expectations the government put this through together. With these words, I would please join me in thanking Mr. Kannan for coming and giving us a true insight view of IBC. It's the law, the IBC itself, and whether it's effective and how good it is. Mr. Kannan, thank you so much for coming and sharing with our participants.
Final word, sir. A final word before this, and thank you for having called me over. Final word is the IBC as a process was not supposed to be for recovery. It was a resolution process saying that you can't simply procrastinate the entire process and delay for 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years. You need to come with a process of resolution where either you sell it off or you restructure or everything is done. And that is something which is attempted. Unfortunately, many of the people have interpreted it as a recovery process, but this is some sort of a characteristic made available both to the borrowers and the lenders. And I think that is what has to be appreciated, that, it's not that everyone wants only recovery, but it is to arrive at the true value of the company and take it forward.
Yes, I think, thank you for this clarity. I think that's a very important clarification that Mr. Kannan gave. I also would like to thank Mr. Khandelwal, Mr. Padmanabhan, and Parikshit Shah for having asked very good questions to Mr. Kannan. With these, I kind of close today's BBD. Tomorrow is Hot Talk, and please come in. We have a very C personality, Brigadier Sanjay Agarwal. He's a known figure in many of the TV channels. He's going to talk about the geopolitical situation and the financial things that are happening around us. So it will be very interesting to hear him out. So do join us. The time will be at 3 o'clock and not at 6 because it's Saturday. We don't want to block your weekend evening. So 3 o'clock tomorrow is Hot Talk. Look forward to meeting you there. With these words, thank you very much. Good evening to all of you.
Thank you. And not much of an evening on weekends nowadays.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Krishnakumar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.